Now, both Turkey and the United Arab Emirates have a very deliberate presence in the Horn of Africa. Since 2011, Turkey has played an increasingly active role in Somalia, working alongside the federal government. They've provided aid and investment, and in return, were able to build Turkey's largest overseas military base on Somali soil. Meanwhile, the UAE angered leaders in Mogadishu by striking a deal with the breakaway province of Somaliland to build a naval base on their coast. Now, while Somalia says it wants to remain neutral in the political crisis unfolding in the Gulf, the government instead seems to be finding itself in the middle of the acrimony. So how much is Somalia at the center of the wider Gulf crisis? And are UAE-Turkish relations at risk over what happens in the Horn of Africa? Well, to discuss this further, I'm joined now from Ankara by Kani Torun. He is a former Turkish ambassador to Somalia and currently the deputy chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Turkish Parliament. And from Birmingham, we have Umer Karim. He is a researcher at the University of Birmingham and an expert in Middle Eastern politics. Thanks both so much for joining us. Ambassador, if I can start with you, just tell us why Turkey needs a presence in Somalia to the extent that it has its largest overseas military base there.
You know, if you look at the history of the recent history of Somalia, after the long civil war in 2011, when all the countries abandoned Somalia and famine and drought that time killed over 200,000 people, Turkey was the first country helped Somalia, and the Turkish Prime Minister, then President Erdogan, visited with his family, ministers, and a very high-level delegation. And Turkey opened an embassy in downtown Mogadishu, working alongside with the transitional federal government to ease the situation which killed, I said, more than 200,000 people.
If you don't mind, it's a rather short segment. I would just like to get Umer in on the discussion here. And Umer, let me ask you, we heard from the former ambassador to Somalia that at the core of what Turkey is doing in Somalia was a humanitarian interest, still is, but it's turned into security issues. Do you think there is more to it than that, seeing now that Turkish interests have gone head-to-head with the interests of the United Arab Emirates in a much wider crisis throughout the Arab world, particularly in the Gulf?
I think the issue which we are witnessing now in Somalia, which has kind of put Turkey and United Arab Emirates on two opposite sides, is on a broader level is something related to nation building in Somalia. So Turkey's stance or Turkey's main engagement with the Somali Republic had been related to soft power initiatives, training Somali professionals, doing a lot of trade and commerce activity. While on the other hand, the Emiratis' broader image or broader outlook for the region is more security oriented. So these two diverging images, they are increasingly becoming conflicting within Somalia, because mainly that now Emirati activities, and especially the Emirati decision to build the port city of to build a port in Berbera city in Somaliland, which is a sort of a semi-autonomous region of Somalia and has certain issues with Somalia, gets directly into the line of what do we understand as Somali state or Somali Republic. And of course, the only power which is standing firmly behind the image of a united Somalia or the image of a Somali state incomplete or with all of its entities is Turkey on the other hand. And as we have seen, both Turkey and the Emiratis, they were invested in security training within Somalia. So now with this this new standoff, we are seeing Emiratis ending that security training program, which will actually give Turkey more space within Somali institutions and the Somali state.
Okay, as you describe it as a standoff, though, I mean, do you harbor fears that this could escalate to real conflict, in a sense, between UAE and its Arab partners and Turkey and its allies?
What I can think, or what I envisage, is that there will be more diplomatic tensions, there will be more maneuvering backstage between the two powers. The Somali government is, of course, worried about whatever is happening in Somaliland. But other than the Somali government, the Ethiopians, they are kind of worried about Emirati boots within Somaliland, because the Emiratis are also building, they have also built a base in Eritrea. And then Turkey's engagement with Sudan has also not gone well with the Emiratis.
Okay.
So for now, we are at the level of a regional Cold War, you can say. I don't think so it will escalate further into a regional hard war with battles on ground. But definitely it will instill more instability within Somalia, and will definitely hamper the activities of counterinsurgency against Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab militants.
Then Kani Torun, I mean, do you fear further endangering the Turkish relationship, not just with the United Arab Emirates, but in turn with Saudi Arabia, for example, via Turkey's development and actions in the Horn of Africa?
Let me say this first. We are not in a competition with any country. Turkey is doing what Somalia needs, and started 2011. There was no country there that time. So then we increased our work through development, and then part of development as state building process, we helped for the military. And Turkish base, so-called base, actually it's the military training facility. It was basically for Somalia training of Somalian military officers and non-commissioning officers. So we are trying to build a new nation, new state with the
that's
proper,
understood, but
security
from the
apparatus.
perspective of certain Arab states, that's not how they see Turkey's presence there, given that Turkey is a strong ally of Qatar.
Coming to the UAE's involvement, I think they tried to do something with the involvement in different level of mainly security, but in the meantime, they are not in rivalry with Turkey. Turkey is not competing with any country actually, and we are over all the this political rivalry. Actually, their competition now, after particularly the Farmajo's government, their competition with Qatar, because Farmajo announced that they will be neutral, not to support any of the camp. So they are putting pressure on Somali government to take part, actually to support their camp. In the meantime, there was some dirty things they have been doing, distributing money to some politicians, some other, political actors. So this is actually bring the more kind of competition, and also fueling the the feelings of Somalis against UAE. And what happened in Mogadishu airport when they seized money, about $10 million. So the relationship gets sore, and then the Bosaso issue come, and they ended with all the military agreements with Somalia. Actually, what they have done in Berbera, they did a unilateral deal with the Somaliland government. Somaliland is not a recognized country.
Right.
At the moment, all these kind of issues should go through Mogadishu as only recognized government.
Right, and the UAE
in the international community
circumvented the Mogadishu authority.
Kani
Torun, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we are well over time for this segment. I'd like to thank you and Umer Karim so much for joining us on this edition of the Newsmakers.